Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're just waiting for people to refine the stream. We had a software update with EV Mux. Don't ever purchase those people, even though I'm using them. It's because I'm poor.
Well, as you said, you get what you pay for. Sadly.
All right, so I am inside of YouTube, and I do see us going now.
Okay, a little fun house here. I'll see if I can want to update my website while I'm doing the show with you, so that people can find us if they go to the website, which is where I post it.
So Chris Cedar has found us.
Wow.
And as people are filtering in, good morning, Chris. I'm going to let the video play. This was, what was this, the 4th?
Fourth what? Sorry.
Of February? What day was this?
Yes, February 4th, correct. 6 days ago.
All right, so this is the current state of Point Reyes National Seashore now that we've gotten ranchers out.
Wise guy.
With friends like TNC, who needs enemies? Go ahead and talk to us in the chats as you come in, everybody, so that we can greet you. We're just doing a little warm up here.
Is that what it's called?
Letting people filter in while the footage plays. We'll go back over this and talk about it in detail. And Jack has a little something that he's prepared. I have some ecology talking points that I want to get to today.
Well done, Skyward. Thank you for your service. Jesus. I guess this is why people hire staffers to do stuff, huh? What an idea.
I don't know. It was scheduled. You sent out the link and it was the right thumbnail and everything. I don't know how it got swapped.
I think it had to do with the platform, EvMux, that we're hosting on's software update, as you called it. So there you go. Very technical.
They added some new features that they were proud of, which included getting rid of your scheduled program. Jack, look at all those cattle.
Yeah, I spent some time trying to count the number of cows out there. Well, not from your piece of footage, but from some stuff I shot. This would be maybe a little bit easier, but just to get an estimate within like 100 or 75 cows accuracy, it's tough to do. But that is a lot of cows, a meso cows.
So, Jack, do you feel inspired to tell people what they're looking at?
Oh, you mean, am I able to run my mouth for a change?
That would be a dumb question.
Yeah, exactly. Take note. Skyward said, "Hey, Jack, would you please talk more?" I had to work hard at that to get him to beg for that. Hello, Lynn Klein. Good morning. Thanks for hanging in there while we figure the show out here. So,
wow, Corinne gave a super chat that's gone. Okay. Well, people are here. We can start chatting.
And there you go. Corinne said, "This is weird. I renewed my membership to the small super chat this morning, and now it is invisible. Probably something to do with the platform update. Who knows?" But thank you, Corinne, for being there. More importantly,
I got to hit pause right there. That is insane.
So we went out there to do a few things, but one of them, we were on our way to the elk preserve, and all of a sudden, like, oh my God, look at, like, you keep going out there because we're just, what is it now, a month and a half, 6 weeks away from February, March, April 1st deadline, I believe. Sometimes it's the 15th. Some ranches cut different deals, but roughly April 1st, all the cows of the 12 of the 14 ranches that are leaving are supposed to be out of there. So we expect to see fewer cows. And then look at this, folks.
Did everybody see? Watch the camera pan from this insanity to the other side of the road.
So for those who know the park, this is Pierce Point Road, just past Abbott's Lagoon, where on the left you'll see typically a dairy, which is I Ranch on the left. It's both sides of the road, as Sky was showing you with his pan here. But that is more cows than I've ever seen there. No, these are not dairy cows. These are Angus beef cows for the most part. I don't know about the white one there in the center of the frame sitting down. But it was just kind of stunning. We go out there to, wow, see how many fewer cows there are, although it is legal for them to have cows there currently. But I put out some feelers. I won't go into detail, but put out some feelers saying, can they have this many cows on the land? And we also found out that these are actually not cows belonging to this previous or current, I guess, leaseholder's property, which you can see there. Those are barns of I Ranch, Bob McClure. Well, he's still there, but these aren't his cows. We found out through, we have a story to tell perhaps, but these belong to the Dave Evans, who has 3 other ranch properties and is one of the 2 ranchers who will be staying. 12 are leaving, or 12 leases are being surrendered for pay. They're not being evicted. They're not being evicted, despite the ranchers using that word. They're not being evicted. They were paid millions of dollars. They could sell their cows, sell their properties, retire with $5 million in the bank, and live happily ever after. But oh no, that's not good enough. They're going to whine all the way to the public and again to the bank, as always. In the meantime, still cows and ranching persist at Point Reyes Seashore, which is going to be the topic of this show. Skylar's the cynic, but he's always saying, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. The cows will always be there. And so far, me, the optimist, have to admit he, the relative pessimist, is dead on right.
So far you've seen shots of H Ranch, I Ranch. What was that thing? J Ranch. And some of this is bordering K Ranch and M Ranch. So it's hard to see with the naked eye exactly where the border is. But I don't know if it matters because the cattle are wherever they want to be, it seems.
Well, it is interesting. There was a maximum of about, I don't know, arguably, certainly safe to say 5,500, maybe 6,000 cows in the park for the last, 10 years, 20 years,
Yeah.
Forever, I suppose. And it will drop precipitously. And I will talk about that too. But there will be fewer cows. But of course, TNC, the Nature Exterminancy, that would be TNE, is insisting on bringing in more cows. And where they get them from is a story we've touched on before. But it won't be cow-free because they're going to use cows to restore land damaged by cows. What manner of beast is that? That's not a
She
cow.
is a wild animal. I'm so glad she's not stuck in a cage anymore because she never, nothing belongs in one, but.
Well, plus wild in that you're not forcibly impregnating her, right? Or extracting milk from her, right?
So this is the northeast part of J Ranch, and as you can see right here, as the camera pans, the monstrosity of Kehoe, which is absent of Kehoe, and yet filled with cattle. Kehoe is gone, and this land is filled with cattle. This is my most recent trip. I went back out there without Jack to accomplish a couple more things I didn't accomplish on our trip. But these cattle were closer to the road than when Jack and I were there, so I'm glad I went because J Ranch is absolutely full. And there's some talk about land swapping, and Evans is going to get pieces of this ranch instead of ranches that he had before, but nowhere does it say that he can be on J Ranch.
And like I say, we put out some questions to the to top people, to the appropriate people. Who is that? Identify for the audience, please.
That's a Northern Californian wolf bear.
A rare hybrid that Skylar has somehow managed to obtain for a dog is his co-pilot, as they say.
He's partially tame. I'm still scared a little bit.
What may we say? Well, may we know what day this is? If today is Tuesday,
This was the 8th. This was Super Bowl Sunday. I thought
Oh,
people
wow.
will be watching that, so we went out here.
Awesome. Great idea. Wow. You know, again, I just always see it.
Look at that.
Wow. This is I'm trying to get my bearings. This is K
This
Ranch
is this is
on the
I
west,
Ranch on the other side where like L Ranch would be above it.
east or west? Left.
East,
As you're
east,
driving out there, it's on the right side. Okay.
and understand that this is the same drive. We just finished all those cattle on J Ranch that I showed you, and these cattle are out here also. You know,
Oh,
no matter what land or new areas ranchers are going, the rancher who is going to stay is supposed to be on. How many are you allowed to have? Because at this point, it feels like we paid ranchers to leave while just giving one the seashore.
right. It's the human ranchers will leave, but all their cows and the business operations will continue as usual.
And GNC is going to bring in other cattle on top of it. Here's something positive. There's some elk on I Ranch.
Okay. Right near the ranch buildings, so which they would have been hazed away previously. Ranchers don't want elk on their property for the most part. Yeah, you
And
know,
then,
folks, and again, just looking at this, I'm just doing it for people who may not be regulars that might watch this broadcast one day after today, Tuesday, February 10th, and wonder, like, what's the matter? Look at all that land. It's green. There are a few cows. Like, what is your problem? And the problem is point out the wildlife. Where are the
yeah,
deer, the elk,
point it out, people.
the bobcat, the mountain lions, the occasional black bear that might be in California? No, coyotes certainly. I mean, all those animals aren't on this land because they're pushed off for the domesticated livestock.
Look at this. I just keep finding them.
I wonder, and when you drove out to past I Ranch, were there still this same number of Angus cows, or did he just move his cows? Evans moved those black Angus cows further out onto Kehoe's land.
I opened up with J Ranch. That's Kehoe. And showed all those cattle there to
Yeah.
start this video, and then drove to I Ranch, and now we're at H Ranch. There's cattle on all of them in large numbers.
Wow. Wow, I have to put you in touch with certain people whose names will not be mentioned to have you bear witness to what we're seeing out there. And I just kind of can't wait for April 1st, April Fool's Day, perfectly, to then see like, okay, now we are where we're supposed to be. It won't be like, oh, there's a few extra thousand cows. Like, no, that's not how it's supposed to go down.
Yeah, and this is kind of a side topic. It's going to be a little bit touchy because it's like sounds like I'm attacking children and the school system, but we did see a school bus going out there still bringing kids to school, which has to be the ranch workers' children that are still living out there. And Bob McClure is still renting to them, despite the fact that McClure is no longer ranching, but he is still using the land that we taxpayers pay for to rent to people who are no longer working for him. But I got to tell you, if your kids are still getting on a school bus going into town to go to school, how close to planning on moving are you?
You're right. It's a touchy subject. So, you know, we environmentalists who want a national park to be for wild animals are cast as the villains in this piece. And ranchers care so much for their ranch workers, yet they got millions of dollars and gave none of that money, not even like 5%, to their poor ranch workers. And
Right.
then they say we're so abusive of them because we've taken away their jobs, even though they're illegally living on public land that is leased by the ranchers, never owned by the ranchers. They've been paid to sell it years ago for millions. So it's a big mess. And of course, who put up money to take care of those ranch workers that were, put out of work? The Nature Conservancy. I think each household, I think, got $40,000 up front, and there'll be more help as well from the community, which is great. We're all for helping ranch workers. They are the victims. I mean, to be clear, folks, Skylar has interviewed in his support of ranch workers. He's not in support of cattle operations run by wealthy white, mostly wealthy white men who plead poverty while getting huge amounts of cattle culture corporate welfare.
Well, it's nice of you to plug me like that because I'm so critical. I'm sure I come off as the bad guy all the time. But, and there's so much of a pity case being put out there. Like, oh, what's going to become of these people? Well, find new jobs, evolve, adapt. And I will remind people that others that I was working with were prepared and willing to help these people with new jobs outside of this industry. Options are out there. You know, you don't just get to sit there and whine and talk about an uncertain future and not do anything about your future because we're all going through this. I'm paycheck to paycheck on a good day.
Corinne asked a good question, by the way, in the chat. Thank you, Corinne. Good morning, Ray. Are there any other national parks that sold out to ag? And by
Absolutely.
ag, what's that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so just to be specific, it's I don't call this ag because that's a term that the industry uses as an umbrella to
Sure.
cover over the cows by, ag is crops and plants and soybeans, all the rest. So I call it, cattle, if you prefer, and if that's even a term of ownership. So it can be cows or dairy cows or beef cows, and those terms are suspect as well, even. So
Because they're
the
gender related.
the answer is yes, but what was unique about Point Reyes Seashore, and that is changing now, it may have changed already, but it's supposed to change by April 1st, the deadline of the settlement agreement. It was the only national park unit in the entire system in the nation that had an active dairy operation, several of them
Mm.
actually operating in the park, 6 dairies. Now, those will all be gone, so they will just, in air quotes, be beef operations, which, it's marginally better, but it's still awful on the land. You should not have commercial cattle operations in any national park unit. So the cattle industry is huge and powerful and politically powerful, and they're constantly pushing to put their cows on public land to graze, whether that's BLM or even National Park Service land. And all of it is horrific and should stop. The trouble is we have currently an administration in DC that is actually actively dismantling all climate information, climate crisis information and regulation. So
And yeah, and the EA.
well,
So
gutting government regulation is what they're doing. I mean, everyone on this show would know that watching us, meaning you're
easier
liberal,
easier to abuse.
meaning you believe in science, and then easier to abuse all the regulations that exist, that even previous Republican administrations would insist on. And I always go national because this is not just about little Point Reyes. It's the microcosm of the nation's larger problems with regard to the cattle industry. And then, of course, on the consumer end, Leah will lecture me if I don't speak of it. But everyday folks, give up meat and dairy, give up beef, especially meat and dairy, and you can be helping the planet and your own species if that's what you care about.
Hello, Ray Cooper. If I haven't told you before, I think you would enjoy my ecologist channel because you're really into it when I post about the plants that I find. So, just a reminder that there is a more dedicated channel that just talks about nature and not so much about politics and veganism and things like that. And Corinne clarifies that she just meant ag in general. I'll add that the previous superintendent, Kinkle, came from a park where they were trying to increase agriculture and had just finished killing off a mammalian
Deer,
species.
deer,
And I think in that, I can't remember,
Cuyahoga.
were those native or was it non-native the excuse used?
I don't want to be inaccurate. I think it was native deer population, and it wasn't the white axis deer that were non-native, so claimed non-native here, but it was Cuyahoga National Park. I think that's in Ohio, and that's where
Mm.
the Craig Kenkel, the superintendent who was here for a little bit while during our our work on this issue, came from. And he hired, he was all proud, as I called him lovingly, Deer Killer Kenkel, came to Point Reyes to help kill elk because he's, that's what a good Park Service superintendent does, is kill wild animals.
Do you want to play your video and then we'll talk from there?
Sure.
Or do you
Yeah.
not want to?
Yeah. No, I was just trying to pause a little bit or digest what we've got and deal with audience as well.
Well, let's do it.
Okay.
Read NC and see if you don't mind even elaborate on that.
Yeah, and I was going to ask Ray Cooper if he wants to post about the Aquas Cafe event Friday, if that's public, if that's open to the public. So, NC, thank you. Good morning. Various county open space agencies are heavily involved in grazing leases as well. Yes, thank you. Great point. Here in Marin, which Skywano Skylar and I know a fair deal about. The ranchers get support on the county level, meaning water pollution ignored and money taken from, there was a Measure A initiative, which was supposedly for open space and parks, but ranchers got their, whatever it was, I forget, 20% of that or something, to help them because they're poor, struggling workers. They also get state funds, and they also get national subsidies as far as in the form of the leases being about a tenth, 1/10, not half, but a tenth market value. So they are getting government handouts from every possible direction, local, state, and national, while whining about how tough it is and how hard they work.
You would think that was the complete list. You left out private donations, such as malt.
Yeah, I was going to say TNC, but maybe that's going too far.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure. I mean,
Cattlemen's Association, state and national. Yeah, it just, I mean, that's the thing too about the frigging, as vegan activists, we're talking about cows and cattle all the time and beef and dairy. People don't realize these are money losing operations, completely money losing. Private people own them and they're living off the public teat, sucking it dry.
Where's Red Farmer to talk to us about the efficiency?
It
just requires everyone to cover your funds.
He says stuff that's not really coherent. I don't know what to make of that gentleman. No. I don't know who he is.
No, I don't really want to engage. I'm just using it as a quick joke.
Okay. And then NC is East Bay Regional Parks. I guess, yeah, I don't know the details over there with respect to agriculture, to say cows. Okay, so you've got a video cue. This is Skylar having me talk to camera on Wednesday at iRanch off of Pierce Point Road, just past Abbott's Lagoon on the west side. And just a journal of
February 4th, 2026. We're on iRanch, the ranch that supposedly closed down. And we're driving by here today, 4:20 p.m. I don't know, 150 Angus cows on a ranch that's closed down. So
you want to read your correction that you put in the text?
Yeah, well, we were just landed there, pulled over. Oh my gosh. And I was trying to be very modest in my estimates. I really am.
Yeah.
And then counting this, it was definitely, because I did count this on a video that I shot separately, over 300 out there on that side of the road.
Supposedly on a windy day. And another, I don't know, 75, 100 cows on the other side of the road over there.
Another 300.
So, yeah, I mean, at least 600.
To this I say, WTF? What are all these Angus beef cows doing out here still? Well, they have technically until April 1st till we're closed down, but this is just emblematic of what goes on here. So even when these things go, then the Nature Conservancy wants to bring in more cows to mow this grass down because of fire danger and restoration. And look at this land here. This is just beaten down. We were out today walking around, and through chest-high vegetation, waist-high vegetation anyway.
Could you pause this, please? Thank you, sir. Oh, if there's any way you can crank that back to say that. What?
If there's any way I can change the scene?
No. Just back it up, which you did. You're perfect. You're operating it well, and you're reading the subtitles. Thank you, Skylar. And
trust me, I was going to.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, what's fascinating? So these are. I'm not an expert here. Skylar knows more of the vegetation. Weigh in, Skylar. But that's certainly bunch grasses. And what people need to understand is this is the kind of landscape. This is just 2 miles away from where I'm standing at that barren ranch, which looks nice in green grass, like a mowed lawn where you play jarts and run your lawn boy. But this is the vegetation that would be there otherwise, that was probably there originally for thousands of years, which has been destroyed by the cattle industry. This is just 2 miles to the south and about half a mile inland from the ocean, maybe a little less. It's just the same, and of course the topography varies, and some areas get more water inlets and stuff. But this is kind of to the north, and now we're here looking at this grass to the south.
Don't give too many details, because I was thinking about showing part of this hike, and I was just like, it has to be anonymous because I don't want the TNC to get any ideas to go in and destroy it, so that there isn't evidence of the health of land without cattle.
If we were getting 100,000 viewers, I'd be equally paranoid. But in any case, the point is these are these big, healthy grasses that are up to my waist. And even when we were walking through here exploring this, Skylar and I, on Wednesday, all of a sudden, oh my God, a buck a large deer with the rack antlers appeared out of nowhere because they can live in this stuff. And we saw lots and lots of deer beds. There are no deer beds on any pasture land. It's a golf course. It's not even a golf course. It's a backyard lawn over thousands of acres that is in a national park that should be open and free to grow this tall and healthy for wild animals.
Boy, you got me tempted to talk about some other things. We'll get to it. I'm being patient. You want to play the rest of this?
Sure. Thank you, sir. Finish up.
And it's just a wasteland. This is what cattle do. So for In Defense of Animals, this is Jack Gescheit saying, we're going to keep telling the public that this is a destructive force in a national park, and we need them out, all of them out, not to bring in another 600 to 1,200 cows that the Nature Conservancy wants to bring in to restore the land that was destroyed in the first place by the cows, and to keep fire danger down. Nonsense. There's no fire danger in a national park. It's called a wildland. It should burn from time to time. The only reason there's fire danger here at all is because the cattle bring in this seasonal grass, which dries out and becomes a fire danger. So bottom line, no cows in this national park ever. Get them all out, and we're going to...
And if you can back up, that I don't know, do you recognize, I didn't tell you what I did there, that inset picture that appeared a second earlier? Do you know what that is? That is footage that I shot of this exact property, actually 50 yards to my left. That is also iRanch that I shot in the summertime with fog coming in. And, you know, you can't see it on a small screen, folks, when you're watching. But that's what this same green pasture becomes, which is burnt and dried and exposed dirt and lots of manure patties. That's what this is 6 months of the year. Right now, it looks as good as it's ever going to be because at least it's green.
Boom. Right now, it looks as good as it's going to. And if you are a nature enthusiast, if you know anything about the ecology of the land, you know that what you're looking at isn't good, and yet it only gets worse.
Well put. Thank you.
No cows in this national park ever. Get them all out, and we're going to continue the fight to make that happen.
Yeah, go get them.
You try to have AI
February 4th,
go in there and say you
2026.
were reporting for Tree Spirit Project and watching humans instead of IDA.
Yeah, you know, I was supposed to edit that out, but I got busy last night. Anyway.
I've got a lot with details from, I've been going out there since 2017, 2018. And, I was just like, what am I going to do with all this footage? Because you never have time to edit it all.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one thing to do with it. It'll be to show the state of the land the entire time the ranchers have been there while they try and tell the public, oh God, what's going to happen without us?
Which they're doing to this day, and they will continue to do. Like, as a matter of fact, can we say what the other thing that happened out there on Wednesday, the other person we came across? I'm really not sure what to disclose.
Well, I don't even know if we have to say who it is. I mean, anyone who's paying attention knows that there's only one leaseholder remaining on that side.
Oh, yeah.
On that side.
Yeah.
But this person, while standing in between, by Jack's numbers, roughly 900 cattle, had the audacity to talk about there's going to be an overpopulation problem of elk. We were standing next to more cattle than the entire population of elk in the national seashore at that moment. But
I want to say that, thank you. Can we just drill down on what you just said?
Repeat what I said, because I'm so
bears repeating. Yeah, I'm just going to say what you said with different words, because people need to get this, especially our viewers, so they really understand that people who are already, quote unquote, on our side, meaning the side of sanity. So we had a rancher we bumped into telling us to our face, and, it was like a Trumpian thing that he meant what he was saying. He believed it. But he was saying, yeah, there's going to be a problem with the elk because now that they're out and they can get more land, they're going to populate and be too many, and they have no natural predators, right? This is the party line you're going to hear again and again. And we need cows in the park to eat the grass down, ignoring the fact that elk eat the grass down. And to Skylar's point, to reiterate, we were looking at more cows in that one spot on that one ranch, cows belonging to this rancher talking to us and educating us, than all of the elk in the three different areas, the three different elk herds in Point Reyes Seashore. So we were looking, certainly 600 cows, I understand it to be more than that, probably 900 cows. I want to be accurate again with the numbers. I always try to be. But I know there are fewer than 900 elk in the park. We hope that there will be more than 1,000, more than 2,000, 3,000, and let them range over the 71,000 acres of Point Reyes seashore rather than just the 2,600 acres of the relatively tiny fenced elk reserve. Oh, I see a cowboy hat coming out. We're gonna go. We're gonna go.
I just want to, for those who don't want to believe the ecologist and believe the ignorant, trumpy dumpy rancher.
Well, no, you're a hardworking rancher, steward of the land.
Now you can believe all the horse shit that I want to feed you, except that I'm going to tell the truth, so it kind of doesn't work.
Because you're a hardworking steward of the land. Now I believe you. You feel the dirt with your fingers.
I was out there on the 8th on Lunny's ranch, G Ranch, documenting its current state, and I was thinking about how I voluntarily go out and do nice things for the planet without a paycheck, and everything that ranchers do hurts the planet for a paycheck. Wow. And somehow we owe them. Somehow we owe them when they keep taking natural resources in order to make money, and it's parasitic. It's a take-only situation in which they want you to believe that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. I've got some plants, I've got some details, I've got the evidence. And for those of you who don't want to wait until I release it to everyone, I do have in the member section or over on Patreon for those who are anxious to see first take. It's just another way of supporting me and getting to a first look at some stuff. But I guess my point is that I have all the visual evidence to go with everything that Jack and I talk about. But isn't it interesting that someone can simultaneously tell us how important it is, because this was part of the speech that this rancher was giving us, simultaneously telling us what a disaster it would be without his cattle there to graze down the plants, while being concerned that native grazers might reach a high population level.
And also, we forgot to add that he was arguing that we need cattle to remove and reduce and graze down the invasive non-natives, because they've specially trained their cows, I must assume, to only eat the non-native invasives, not touch the good, like bunch grasses that we were showing you that are native. Somehow the cows know what to eat because they're, I guess, trained by the intelligent ranchers. By the way, Fab Dance, I don't know, that's a new viewer perhaps? I wonder if your initials are CC. Anyway, I know we tend to talk a lot about Point Reyes, but any thoughts on American Prairie and the Department of Interior's revoking of their bison grazing permits? That's a great question and an entire show, which we should do and bring on George Werthner, who's certainly more knowledgeable than me. I don't know what you know of this stuff, but I mean, yes. We shouldn't be grazing any domesticated animals on public land, which destroys it and adds to climate crisis. Now, it's a nettle, which I don't know. I'm not an expert on bison, other than they were originally native grazers, yes, but now I'm told that there's an awful lot of them are sort of semi-domesticated, and of course, we start screwing with their genetics and breeding them for food and for meat and change them from what they once were and how they once behaved to be more like domesticated cattle. It's how our today's cow breeds came from water buffalo from Asia, and then they were converted in Europe and then brought over from Europe to the New World to be different and not wild animals. And of course, any animal that you farm, that word, and kill and extract from the land is not a healthy ecosystem. It's not a complete cycle. You're bringing in nutrients, if you're assuming they're not just grass-fed or they're corn finished, and then you take them off the land to feed to humans. So their bones and their viscera and their meat, their composition doesn't go back into the soil, a complete cycle, what nature does. We take them off the land. So it's an extractive industry, a term I was taught by the great Ken Brower, son of David Brower. And the last one, Corinne says, what's your estimate for the number of elk out there? Great question. The last official count was over 2 years ago, Corinne and folks, and that was 702, and that's an estimate, because they didn't do a thorough count of all three. There are three different areas. Well, there used to be three distinct distinct-ish herds. Now that the fence has been opened up in the reserve, the largest of the three herds in northernmost Point Reyes, it's trickier. They can intermingle as they should. We don't want there to be three separate herds. We want elk in the park to go wherever they know to go. I would guess, conservatively, there are probably 800 elk. There may be more because there's been food and water and less harassment by ranchers. Skylar's smiling with a comment.
Well,
and folks,
yeah.
And just last thing, just a plug, I'll do it at the end too. If anyone listening to the show, eventually, now or later, wants to hear more about the elk and the cows and be on the land, in 2 weekends, on the 21st of February, on a Saturday, I'll be taking people out to do kind of a combination tour of these areas that Skylar and I are talking about, some of them, and also in my iPhone or smartphone photography class. So,
you know what? I'm scheduling one too for the same day and time.
Really? In the same place? Or are we going to be in two different places, I hope?
I don't know, but boy, you're good at this.
February 21st. There's something going on with Skylar. If you want to follow.
No, there's not.
Oh, you're just joking. Oh, well, I fell for that. How about that? You got
me. Here's a follow-up.
Fab Dance. Very true on the semi-domestication. I believe the Fort Peck tribe, you're over my head, had secured a population from Yellowstone to diversify the wild bison genetics. I'll keep my eye out for that future show. Yeah. And if you have Fab Dance, if I'm reading that right, if you have good articles, thorough ones, in-depth stuff, not something from the Marin IJ or the Chronicle or the Point Reyes blight, as I've learned to call it, forward those to me at Jack@treespiritproject.com. I'd love to read up more.
I mean, you touched on this, but when I was talking to George about it, and he was talking about how they were domesticating or even crossbreeding bison with cattle because of the hardiness of the bison. It's like, oh, we're going to have a hardier, but they also get rid of all the instincts and the good genetics that came with it being a wild animal. Anyway, I've already done multiple videos on that. I won't get distracted by it for this show.
Okay.
But yeah. Here's what I thought was funny. Your Thule elk estimation included young babies.
Yes.
Ranchers get to not count young. You know those massive animals that you just looked at, people? I mean, massive. You look in their faces and you see that they are indeed young and innocent, but they're massive. And they get to not count them as animal units.
So an AU, also an AUM, which was what an animal unit month, AU and AUM is an animal unit month. They have AUEs, which is animal unit estimate, but an animal unit is a cow and a calf. Two animals are counted as one. And I have people in the industry, including, our advisors and this stuff on our side of this issue, oh, just say that matter of fact. And I'm like, well, wait a sec. I'm a newbie to this. I'm not a cattle industry guy. WTF, as I say. How can that be? Why would you? I mean, a calf, yeah, it only weighs 500 pounds, which is more than a female elk. And it's eating a lot because it's growing. Of course, it's still drinking milk. I don't know how long. Well, they're not allowed to stay with their moms and drink milk. So why are they not counted? Skylar? Anyone? What's going on there? There's two animals and both over 500 pounds, but you only count one. So, I mean, the fix is in from start to finish is my conclusion. Some intersections here. Fab Dance, the Ballerina Farms raw milk filled with poop, I assume that means cow manure, is exposing a new group of people to how much poop is generated in dairy operations. Oh, interesting. Good. Yeah, it's a dirty business, literally and figuratively and financially and politically. Or to sum it up,
nothing good on this land.
Wow. Who's that rancher? What a good looking, I can tell that's an AI fake because he's too thin. He has no gut in silhouette. And he's walking. Total fake. This is AI fake. He's
I'm not riding an ATV or a pickup through the habitat that they care so much about.
In fact, I'm thinking that I might have taken that picture. Is that possible?
No, this was Sunday.
Okay. Okay. Nothing good is happening on this land. That's like an ad for our next show.
Okay, so let me put a different picture up.
God.
Now, Jack is defender of all plants, but I invite you to go jump in there and play. This was a huge mound of milk thistle on Lunny's ranch, and while I have that up on the screen, I'm going to tell people what I found on Lunny's ranch. Cheeseweed. Okay, everything I'm about to list is not native. Cheeseweed, poison hemlock, wall barley, Yorkshire fog, milk thistle, sheep sorrel, curly dock, wild radish, wild mustard, and various other European grasses. Notice I did not list a native plant. Now, Jack and I went off a couple of weeks ago after Lunny and Point Reyes Light joined forces to feign concern about the wall barley going to seed before the cattle could get to it. Okay.
You're just getting started, aren't you?
I am. I want to remind everyone that that entire list of plants that I just listed go to seed. And every single one of them is a product of ranching activity. It just blows my mind that people can remove the guilt of the people who are responsible for those plants being there as soon as one pretends like, oh my God, this one might go to seed.
Did he mention why that plant is in the park in the first place?
No, of course not.
And why is it in the park in the first place? The one he's
To
complaining
feed
about?
what he makes money with.
So you're saying that the wall barley, is that the one he was singling out as a problem?
Yeah.
He was saying that's a problem, but he wouldn't admit that it's in the park in the first place because of his cattle operations.
No, he made it sound like it's only a problem because the cattle aren't there with it.
Well, to be fair, that is probably, and I don't want to be fair, and I won't be fair. I'll be honest, I won't be balanced. I'll be honest and fair. He chose one plant that the cows will eat, that it wasn't originally there, so that we need to have cows to get rid of this one plant that it will eat, even though it does monstrous damage in every other aspect.
Well, yes, you're correct, but that's not the only one that they'll eat. They'll eat a lot of those grasses, but all of them didn't accidentally appear in the seashore. All of them are there for the cattle, but there are some that came with cattle that aren't even beneficial to the cattle, such as the poison hemlock, such as the milk thistle, things like that. Now, let's focus on the milk thistle. No, let's focus on the poison hemlock.
Go get them.
As the name implies, it's toxic. Every part of the plant is toxic, including toxic for livestock, toxic for wildlife too. We could probably spend funds that are spent on ranchers doing studies about how many wildlife have ended up accidentally being poisoned because of the presence of all of these non-native poisonous plants. But I also want to point out that every poison hemlock plant produces 40,000 seeds. Every single one of those non-native plants that I listed that are there because of the ranchers produce seeds. How are we going to talk about wall barley in the sense of, oh my God, if we don't have cattle out there to eat wall barley, what's going to happen? And indeed, what would happen? You're going to have more wall barley amongst all the other non-native plants there. It's not like the wall barley is going to take over a healthy ecosystem. You're talking about a battle of various plants that shouldn't be there at all.
Which brings us to, there's a great question here by, I don't know how to read her tag, Calamagrostis. Yeah. It's such a unique opportunity to see if elk, deer, ground squirrels, and other herbivores are able to keep coastal prairie healthy and control invasive plants. So great question, great topic, important one. And I, as a self-appointed activist on the Point Reyes issue, will be trying to round up support for biologist Laura Cunningham of the Western Watersheds Project, who wants to approach the Nature Conservancy and the Park Service with a much wiser, more scientific-based, ecologically sound plan once April 1st deadline is gone and supposedly more of the cows are out, supposedly, to how to restore the lands. So Nature Conservancy is really focusing on cattle because, in my opinion, they're bought and sold by the cattle industry. So that's their fix. There's a problem, cattle will fix it, even though it's most of the problems or all of the problems are caused by cattle in the first place. Laura Cunningham says common sense stuff like, hey, let's do smaller tests areas where we use some cattle. If you insist on doing that, you're not going to abandon those. Okay, fine. But then areas where there are no cattle, and then areas where we do some hand pulling, in areas where we'll do some planting, in areas where we might do some controlled burns, which are, spooky, but in smaller areas, you can do it on non-windy days. So I'm in favor of all that. Not that I'm in favor of the cattle, but a reasonable, moderated, gradual, and varied approach. Let's try that rather than just bring in the cows. Let there be more cows. Nature, cattle.
As of right now, they are not open to a single alternative or study plot. And I've said this on this show before. I've said it in the other videos that I produce outside of this show. The unwillingness to allow any other form of evidence to exist should make people pretty suspicious.
And folks, there are supposed to be, and I believe there will be, 2 public comment sessions. Now, it's easy to be cynical on public comment sessions. I certainly can be, which is they open comments to the public. Thank you very much for your comments. And now we ignore you and do what you're going to do. But we gave you the public comment session. That happens typically. I've learned that in the last 10 years as an activist involved with the Coastal Commission and such. However, it is an opportunity to get people who are listening today to tell their friends and say, okay, upcoming Jack and Skyward are going to let us know when there's this opportunity to make a comment. And you come at them with 100 people and pack I assume it'll be Zoom room. They would be foolish to allow us in the same space with them, because then we might actually look them in the eye and hold them to account. Why people don't want to testify about Epstein, as an example. Oh, what a beautiful ranch that is. How well maintained that is. I guess the ranchers only had 50 years of leases, or is it more? So they couldn't invest in restoring their infrastructure.
That's Lonnie again, and he's leaving us with another mess, just like he left the taxpayers with a mess to clean up on Drake Sestero. But he's the victim.
Yeah.
Let me finish my speech about the poison hemlock, because this is where the ecology becomes interesting. Apparently, some songbirds will eat it when it's young enough and not so toxic that it kills them outright. But over time, they themselves, through the absorption, end up being toxic. So that means that something that preys upon a songbird that has been toxified by poison hemlock then hurts another animal in the food chain. These are the types of things that humans don't think about most of the time. These are the types of things that happen when you suddenly introduce a plant to an area that did not evolve with all the other organisms in that area. You throw wrenches in the system. The other point I had to make was how's bringing cattle in to manage plants that the cattle don't even want to eat going to reduce those problem plants?
Yeah, but the trouble with you, Skylar, is you're asking these like logical questions where if A plus B equals C, then, that's just, you don't want to be thinking like that. The point is to bring in cattle and then reverse engineer to justify bringing cattle by saying, hey, we should bring in cattle because they'll fix everything. They'll eat down the invasives, which isn't true, and they'll take care of fire danger, which also isn't true. And for me, even just saying there's no, it's a wild land. Why are we managing wild lands? Why do humans have to get in and micromanage a wild land? By definition, you can't manage a wild land.
I guess some people would look at it. Some people would look at it as humbling because they want to be in control and they want to believe that humans are necessary to manage things. But if you get past that, it's fascinating to sit back and watch nature go through the various stages of healing and which creatures appear first and which ones follow that one. That is cool, people.
Yeah. Totally.
Why don't you want that in a national park?
Totally.
As Kalama.
I don't know. Calamagrostis is the best I can come up with. Calamagrostis.
It is a unique opportunity. It is. It's a fantastic opportunity to see how they will manage it. Now, I happen to think that we're going to need to give them a lending hand, because you just hand them these fields full of non-native plants that are going to be potentially harmful to them. It's not going to be that fun to watch, because they're going to be kind of like, ugh, moving on. They're going to keep looking, I would think.
And Laura Cunningham, when I spoke to her a while back, but made a point, which is, the process of restoring Point Reyes Seashore could take decades. You don't go, well, certainly don't go with cattle and trample everything down. But even if I could snap my fingers and put Laura, a biologist who's not cattle crazy and a cattle booster, cattle industry person, in charge, it would still take 10 or 20 or 30 years with ongoing experiments and different plots and tests. But it would be constructive, not destructive. And non-cattle is the main point. Did I say not to having cattle? Am I making that point? Is that coming across in the show? I'm not in favor of bringing cattle into the park again, more.
Hey, as our own, when I say our own, PhD biologist and wildlife specialist on our side, Dr. Judd Howell, said, you're not going to restore anything as long as you have cattle there. He flat out said it.
Wow. That's good to know. I haven't spoken with Judd recently. Or I'm thinking, you know what? I haven't spoken with Judd. I was thinking Woody Elliott. I don't know his opinion on this. Another PhD in our midst who knows some stuff. Well, anyway, it's a mixed bag with people. We don't agree on everything. But for me, the cattle is the litmus test. If you're pro cattle, then you're taking the money, or you're brainwashed, or you're just colossally ignorant. And I'm not a super informed scientist, but some of it is pretty obvious.
All right, Jack, you say this person's name this time.
Calamagrostis, idiot. As a long-term, it's not right, but it's confident. As a long-term vision, I think we should be talking about returning wolves and grizzlies to Point Reyes. So I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. I wish we could bring wolves back. They're actually less likely than grizzlies. The issue with wolves, my dear, young person, because you're younger than me, I bet, is they do need a lot of land, and they rove large areas. So I have talked with a few people who love wolves in other parts of other states and say it's just not practical for Point Reyes because it's a 71,000 acre area. And when they inevitably, breed and expand beyond Point Reyes boundaries, which is going to happen in a year or two, or 3 or 4, but not 10, they're going to get into Olima Valley and San Geronimo Valley, and you're going to freak out lovely Marinites who are actually quite terrified as a general class of wild animals, and certainly wolves, which, can be dangerous, I guess, for humans. I don't consider them that way. I don't consider any wild animals dangerous. Humans are dangerous, but there's not enough territory. Grizzlies, do you know more about grizzlies than I do? I'm not an expert on grizzlies, but I haven't heard any biologists we talk with, Calamagrosti, who would love wild animals back in there, advocate for either. We've said bring in more black bear because they're smaller than grizzlies. They're not akin to brown bear, grizzly, polar bears. It's a smaller species. They're less aggressive, so they'd be less of a threat. And we do have some black bear in California. So
right,
that would be possible.
Stop talking about animals we don't know anything about.
Well, I know a little bit. That's all I know. There's a full download, wise guy.
But there is, we do love your idea. It has to be humans being willing to share, because we've come to be accustomed to a planet that only has herbivores almost in the wild, and barely has that. As I've often said, Point Reyes National Seashore should be a wake-up call to you, because even herbivores aren't allowed there because of the threat to animal agriculture in the form of eating the grass that the cows wanted to eat. Can you imagine the conflict of animal agriculture and predators? And also just humans don't know how to survive around an herbivore, much less a predator, not act like a fool around them. But outside of Point Reyes National Seashore, well, shit, I can't even say that, Jack. I was having this fantasy that Point Reyes National Seashore was in fact restored, and that the ranchers were out, but as we can see, they're not. So we couldn't reintroduce predators because the ranchers haven't even left.
Right.
And even if the ranchers had left, what's surrounding Point Reyes? Ranches. And they don't want the predators anywhere near them. They don't want the elk coming over. Humans in their control, and they're wanting to commodify the entire planet, means nothing wild is welcome there. While these same people pretend like they are allies with the wild.
So to underline that critical point you're making, you can't have both elk and cow, like ranchers insist. It's a lie. You need to fence in the wildlife or shoot them or push them off in order to run your cattle operations. That's why one of the major reasons, if not the major reason, we don't have lots of large predator wild animals is because of cattle operations. They don't want them around. They're a threat to making money, which really, let's face it, folks, that's the purpose of animals on the planet, is to confine, slaughter, and sell for money so people have a yummy meal.
That rancher that we ran into had quite the propaganda spiel prepared, and part of it was warning us, as if we were, just naive tourists, that the Tule elk population is going to be out of control and it's growing at 12%. I don't know where you got that number from, because they've been dying by 50% every year leading up to that. You don't have a time frame to go by 12% yet. Like the fence isn't even down yet. There's a hole in it at best, and that's only been a year. Has it been a year? Full year?
Yeah. January of 2020 or December of January 2024. Yeah. Short answer.
Seeing the cattle on J Ranch and K Ranch, which directly border the Tule Elk Reserve, was disturbing to me, because contrary to what ranchers want you to believe, the elk aren't confrontational and aren't going to push the cattle out. So even without the elk fence up, they're kind of running into a living fence of hundreds and hundreds of bovines. Jack and I saw it, like the elk were staying away from where the cattle were.
It makes me think, like, well, wait a second, what were the reasons that the ranchers didn't want elk around in the first place, other than taking up land where it would be fenced off to cattle, which was what the elk reserve was? Why did they not want them around? Because they would eat some of the grass and drink some of the water, right?
Right.
But ironically, if that's the right word, we didn't want the cattle around the elk because of a very different reason, which the rancher we saw Wednesday mentioned.
Oh, Johne's disease.
He called it a disease.
Yeah.
The elk can't be moved to other park because of a disease. He didn't say Johne's disease, which is a common cattle disease, meaning it was initially introduced to the elk herd by the cows, but then you blame the elk for having the disease from his animals. It's so, oh God, nefarious, twisted.
Oh, National Parks Princess, I was hoping that you were watching. I have been, and I know there's messages up above. We'll come back to them. I have been watching. I was wondering if they would be removing all the fencing alongside the road throughout the park. No.
We haven't heard that they would.
We see disturbingly new fence up.
Well, it wasn't put in the last year, but it's disturbingly new in that, why are they building fences? And of course, as we were observing Skyward and people walk through the park, you'll see the fences are illegally low and illegally high with like 5 wires. I mean, a rabbit can get through, but that's about it. It would block a deer. Deer couldn't jump it safely. Not safely. Get caught on the top wire. It's wild overkill with the fences, of course, and all the fences should be removed. Yes. And it's another thing we will be advocating for through the TNC, which is really the Cattle Conservancy, not the Nature Conservancy. Yes. But the fences are historical. Yes. Fab Dance. And we're seeing a historical building. Is it not beautiful to show the long history of 150 years, ignoring 15,000 years without it?
I was, going to pull up a screenshot of the plant that one of our participants has named her channel after. I'm not going to bother, but I was going to. But here's the reason I was going to put it up. Jack had a nice segment showing some of the vegetation that we went through, and I was actually going to get to that later today and put it up on YouTube, because we went through a lot, but. Obviously, when I pointed out Lunny's Ranch, which you see here on the right, I listed a lot of negative things. Well, here's the contrast. Here's what Jack and I went through. Here's some of the things that I noted as we went by. The gigantic bunch grasses, sedges, reeds with California blackberry, weaving in and out of it, wavy leaf soap plant, lupin, coyote brush, beech wormwood, coast buckwheat, sandy soil suncup, deer grass, dune grass, yarrow, monkey flower, Indian paintbrush. I mean, it was wonderful. It felt healthy. It looked healthy. There was a little path carved through it that the elk or the I'm sorry, that the deer,
Yeah.
because unfortunately the elk aren't over there yet.
They will be. They could get.
Will they though? Will they though? If the entire northern part of the park is filled with cattle, I feel like it's going to be a little bit challenging for the elk to confidently get through there. Maybe they will. Let's just say that they will.
Full elks
But
in the rut.
they're not. Here's what's cool. They're not going to destroy it because they're there.
Right.
That's the difference between livestock and wildlife. The wildlife have something to do with those plants. They have a history with those plants. They weren't like the poison hemlock, something that was just thrown into the mix.
They also weigh less. Their hooves are different. They walk differently on the land, and they move around more naturally. They're grazer browsers, not just stand in one spot and eat it down to the dirt the way a cow is raised to do. No fault of the cow. It's been all the wild has been domesticated out of it. So they behave differently, folks. Please know that.
How many plants did I list? I don't think that was even the complete list. And that probably the most
14.
important. Huh?
14.
Oh, good for you.
I made that up. I have no idea.
We got Rain Man here.
Yeah, just about. Except without the skills.
Okay. You go to an area far away from grazing and you find what we found. We found all those native plants using up the area and providing habitat. As Jack pointed out, a buck suddenly appeared. We didn't see the buck because it was in its habitat. That's the way it's supposed to be, people. It's not supposed to be this sad show of animals exposed that wander across ranch land and they have no ability to hide. And yes, Jack's chomping at the bit to say it. Go ahead.
Which the rancher said to us while we played ignorant, like, we're just some guys. We're just here to see cows and elk. Oh, what a pretty place. And the rancher was educating us, saying that, no, it's great. You see, the grazing keeps the grass down. So people come in to see wildlife. And there you can see a coyote, a bobcat. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, there was zero wildlife there while he was saying that. Because there were 900 freaking heads of livestock. But here's when I've seen coyote in that exact same spot, walking behind a manure truck, dragging the leg of a deer that just got chopped up in a combine out of a silage field.
Just letting that little picture sink in. That's going on in a national park because of the cattle industry.
Yep. But they're helping wildlife thrive, people. He said that the wildlife are thriving on ranch land. And you won't have the opportunity to photograph them in an unnatural setting in which they're not capable of hiding without us continuing to destroy their natural habitat. That's basically what he said. Hey, you want the easy opportunity to photograph an animal that can't possibly hide from your camera, right? That's a pretty twisted way to approach photography and nature. Hey, why don't you know what's going to happen next? We're going to have ranchers lead photography tours in which they chop down the vegetation as they go through with a machete so that all the photographers have a clean shot of all the animals that are now exposed.
If they were up to them, they'd lead hunting expeditions for elk. Like a Tarzan movie, hacking.
I wouldn't be surprised if that hasn't been going on the side.
Remember the movies where the great white hunter is hacking with a machete, and he could just like walk around the plant, but it's he's hacking in the tunnel. Like what? It's Hollywood, of course. It's nonsense, but it's just like, oh my god, how stupid.
I have a very, very, very hippie version of that, and it was in the last decade that I started like appreciating the intricacies of spider webs and the work that went into them and going around them. I was like, yeah, I'm a human. I can go right through this, but why? Why can't you step to the right.
Well, the reason for that is, Skylar, is if you step around that spider web, that slows you down. Just destroy it and get to your goal, because when you get to your goal, then you will be happy. God forbid you enjoy the beauty of a spider web and, that marvel of, I don't know, bioengineering. By the way, National Parks Princess says, I saw elk in an area last month where I had not seen them before. My visits to Point Reyes. And she says on the Strauss Ranch, Strauss doesn't have a ranch. He was getting 15% of his milk from Mendoza and another ranch, but I'm curious what you mean by, maybe it says Strauss on a sign there. Anyway, someone else.
She means that Strauss puts his name on
the two dairies he gets some milk from.
Yeah, like it was definitely Mendoza, and I think McClure had a Clover sign up.
Yeah, correct. It was Nunez and Mendoza, the two ranches that Strauss, for all his belly aching, was getting 15% of his supply from, and I'm sure he's already found replacements now because those guys are out of the park. So big deal. Okay, yes, the sign. Yeah, I don't mean to pick on you. I just your comments are accurate, and I just want to comment as we can. But yes, the good point is there are elk in more areas than they have been before, for sure. I'm confident to say there are more elk, and that they are in more areas. So it's moving in the right direction, even though to Skywar's always point, we want no cows in the park, and we're not there yet, not by a long shot.
Corinne brings us back to the bison, and indeed George brought this up, and it's a very simple, this is over by Yellowstone, and it's similar propaganda as is taking place with the Tule elk here, in which a disease that is caused by the cattle is being blamed on the bison. And in Point Reyes National Seashore, a disease caused by the cattle is being blamed on the elk. Almost different disease, different animals, same story.
It is literally blaming the disease victim.
Right. And what's his name, as you pointed out, the rancher brought this up and was telling us about how the elk couldn't be moved out because of the disease. And like, prior to that, we touched on the story of finding the few remaining Tule elk and bringing them in. Question, do you think that they brought in elk that had Johne's disease, people? The answer is no. I'm not even going to let that pause. The answer is no. So where the hell do you think that the Tule elk got Johne's disease?
Meaning from the cattle at Point Reyes.
Yeah. Sadly, they got pinned in to a tight area for a while they were trying to get the guy that was in Pierce Point Ranch to actually leave as he was supposed to. Oh, Jack, you want to go through these comments? We fell behind.
I don't think I missed any. Oh, I'm sorry. Corinne's there. In many cases, elk in the Northern Rockies are a greater vector for brucellosis, but elk populations are promoted for tourism dollars from hunters. Yeah. Right. Let's see. I was in the Bear Valley parking lot, probably. I don't know who you are. I'm sorry. You have me at an advantage, but it's okay. Fab Dance. No, they obviously got it from Fab Dance. There's a good suggestion. They might have gotten the brucellosis and or the Jonas and or, for that matter, anthrax from the space lasers. And I'm being of the Jewish persuasion. I can say inevitably it was my people's Jewish space lasers up at the orbiting space station that had targeted Marjorie Taylor Greene but missed.
Well, this is going to get a little deep in a separate topic, but Fab Dance also said increased predators mean more missing pets, which also terrifies people. Listen, I'm a pet person who likes to take his pets everywhere, but if that's your true concern, don't bring your pets into a national park. Also, in my personal experience, wild animals aren't going to target your pets first and foremost. I think that they learn to through continued exposure to humans, parading their pets around in front of them. I've had over a decade of positive experiences with coyotes, and there were even, as I found out later from my trail cams, the occasional mountain lion. They don't want anything to do with us because we aren't part of their system. But you do have survivors in the form of coyotes who live in an urban area who over time may change their strategy. But again, I'm not going to blame wildlife for something that we as humans ultimately need to be in control of.
Andy Bunnell sent me a great meme, a little phrase on a graphic, which I just texted you, if it's possible to see that in your text feed while I'm talking for the next 30 seconds. We are at 10:20. We did start late because of technical problems with the platform, so we should wrap up pretty soon, I suppose, Skylar, although I don't have to. But to your point, we shouldn't stop wildlife and wild areas because of our human fear and fear for our beloved pets. I was a cat owner in San Geronimo Valley, and we definitely lost a cat, I assume, to an animal. I mean, to a coyote at night or something. And it's very sad, and I love that kitty with all my heart, but it's a price I'm willing to pay to, well, of course, other people lecture me for letting the cat be outside at all. It's a whole other discussion. But more importantly, for humans, it's our fear and disconnection from nature that is the problem.
Yeah, I agree.
And just because you're a fan and knowledgeable, National Parks Princess Skylar is with ER. Skylar, not the other variation of that, Skylar. Skyler. Yeah, I've got the name Gescheit, so I noticed spelling.
Okay.
I live in a glass house. So are we good for today?
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate the lively exchange. We love reading your quotes and interacting with you. And who knows what we're going to do next week? We know.
Who knows what we're going to do?
Who knows?
I'm curious how many people are interested in seeing the visuals of the evidence I'm collecting. Some of you are already members. I hope that you're able to see the videos posted or get notifications. And also I'll have that up on Patreon, which I actually have under the name of the Angry Ecologist instead of Watching Humans. I need to consolidate, figure out what I'm going to call myself here.
Yeah, indeed. It's the name game. And I'm going to plug for I've got 2 upcoming iPhone/smartphone photography workshops. If you want to hang with me for a day, one is going to be at Point Reyes on the 21st of this month, 2.5 weeks from now. And then back to Jolene's farmed animal retreat in Occidental. Spend a day with the farmed animals there where you can be hands-on with many animals and also learn to take better pictures with your iPhone. You can contact me directly through my email, through my Tree Spirit Project website, or through my events page. The details are there if you're interested in either of those. How about the Angry Human?
Well, that's what this channel is. And I have other channels too that I haven't even told people about that I'm even angrier.
You're so angry you won't share the channel. Thanks, Chris Cedar, for being here as always, and for being an activist and a photographer yourself.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. And I will be editing more stuff. Watch for them on my channels today. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, sir.